Welcome to our deep dive into Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse.
Ah, yes.
You wanted to get a handle on the main themes and the book's impact, and trust me, it's one that really sticks with you.
Absolutely.
It's not exactly a light read,
No, it's not.
but it's considered a masterpiece of modernist literature.
Oh, yeah, for good reason.
Yeah, and for a reason.
It's layered and really makes you think.
Uh-huh.
And it's the kind of book that, each time you go back to it, you discover something new.
Yeah.
I think part of what makes it so fascinating is the way it's structured.
Okay.
The three parts, the window, time passes, and the lighthouse.
Right.
They're not just, chronological sections.
Yeah.
Each one has a very distinct feel and purpose.
Yeah.
In kind of building the emotional and thematic core of the story.
It's like each part has its own rhythm
Yes.
and its own atmosphere.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the window.
Okay.
We're dropped right into a summer vacation on the Isle of Skye. The Ramsay family and their guests create this world full of these intellectual conversations and kind of simmering tensions and all these unspoken emotions.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful and a little unsettling at the same time.
Yes. It's both.
Yeah.
And in that setting, we meet some really unforgettable characters.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ramsay is the heart of the house.
Okay.
She's the one everyone kind of gravitates towards.
Yeah.
Woolf uses her to really explore the complexities of, femininity and domesticity in that era. She's warm and compassionate and the glue that holds the group together.
Okay.
But there's also this sense of melancholy.
Yeah.
It's kind of longing for something more.
Yes.
And then there's Lily Briscoe,
Oh, yeah.
the young painter who's trying to capture all of this on canvas. Her struggles as an artist really resonated with me.
It made me wonder, have you ever felt that pressure to create something meaningful?
Oh, absolutely.
But then you doubt your ability to do it justice?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Lily's journey as an artist becomes this thread that runs throughout the novel.
Okay.
And it's tied to this other powerful symbol, the lighthouse.
Yes.
Which looms in the distance, both literally and metaphorically.
Right.
It represents this almost unattainable goal or desire.
Okay.
And each character seems to project their own hopes and anxieties onto it.
It's almost like the lighthouse is this blank canvas itself.
Yeah.
Reflecting whatever each person needs to see.
Exactly.
Now, one thing that struck me about Mrs. Ramsay is this tension between her role as this perfect hostess and then these glimpses we get of her inner life.
Yeah.
She's expected to be this beacon of warmth and stability.
Right.
But Woolf also shows us her anxieties and her frustrations.
That's a great point.
Yeah. What do you make of that contrast?
Well, it's brilliant how Woolf portrays the limitations placed on women during that time.
Okay.
Mrs. Ramsay's constantly balancing her own desires.
Yeah.
With societal expectations and even the expectations of her own family.
Yeah.
We see her longing for moments of solitude.
Right.
Yet she's always drawn back into her role as caregiver and peacemaker.
It really highlights that theme of isolation that runs throughout the book.
It does.
Even surrounded by all these people, these characters struggle to truly connect.
That's right.
It makes you wonder if those connections are even possible.
It does. Each person is trapped in their own thoughts and their own experiences, struggling to bridge that gap between themselves and others.
The window sets all of this up beautifully.
It does.
But things take a dramatic turn in the next section. Time passes.
And it's not just the events themselves that are dramatic. It's the way Woolf chooses to portray them.
Okay.
Time passes covers a span of 10 years.
Right.
But it's not a traditional narrative.
Okay.
It's more like a series of impressions, almost poetic glimpses of the house and the natural world.
Yeah.
As time just marches on relentlessly.
Well, it's like we're watching a time lapse,
Yes.
Seeing the house age and decay.
Right.
Nature reclaiming its space.
Yeah.
And woven into these descriptions are these hints of these devastating events that have happened during those years.
Exactly.
It's a really powerful way to show the impact of time, both on the physical world and on the lives of the characters.
We learn about Mrs. Ramsay's death.
Yeah.
And the loss of 2 of her children.
Right.
Including Andrew in World War I.
Okay.
The war itself becomes this symbol
of
this destructive force of time, reminding us of how fragile life is.
Right.
And the impermanence of everything.
Yeah.
It's interesting how Woolf uses this section
to
explore both personal and collective grief.
Okay.
The family's loss kind of mirrors the losses experienced by countless others during the war.
Right.
So it connects their private pain to this larger historical context.
It's like their individual story becomes this microcosm of what was happening in the world at that time. And the house itself almost becomes a character, reflecting that sense of loss and absence.
It does.
It's described as being shrouded in dust and cobwebs, with the sounds of the sea echoing through empty rooms. It's haunting.
Yeah.
Have you ever, experienced a place that held that kind of weight, where you could almost feel those echoes of the past?
I think we've all encountered places like that.
Yeah.
Woolf's descriptions are so vivid. You can practically feel the chill in the air.
Right.
And hear the floorboards creaking.
Yeah.
It's a testament to her skill as a writer. Her ability to evoke not just physical spaces, but the emotional atmosphere that lingers within them.
Okay.
Speaking of atmosphere, let's move on to the final section, the lighthouse.
10 years have passed, and we find Mr. Ramsay a bit older, and maybe a bit wearier, finally fulfilling that long-delayed promise to take his remaining children to the lighthouse.
Okay.
It's a physical journey, of course.
Yes.
But it also feels like this journey of healing and reconciliation.
What's so interesting here is how this outward journey mirrors Lily Briscoe's artistic journey.
Okay.
She returns to her painting after all these years.
Right.
And we see her struggle to complete it, to make sense of the past, and find her own artistic vision.
I love how Woolf creates these parallel journeys, each one reflecting the other in these unexpected ways. It makes you wonder.
It does.
Is Lily's artistic breakthrough a result of Mr. Ramsay's absence? Allowing her to break free from his presence?
Okay.
Or is it the opposite?
Interesting.
Seeing him finally reach the lighthouse gives her that inspiration. She needs to finish her own work.
That's the beauty of Woolf's writing.
Yeah.
She doesn't give us easy answers.
Right.
She invites us to consider different interpretations, to really explore the interplay between these characters and their journeys.
And it's also worth noting that Lily's artistic process aligns with one of the key techniques of modernist literature.
Okay.
Stream of consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Sure.
It's one thing to read about it in a textbook, but it's another to experience it in Woolf's writing.
Absolutely. So stream of consciousness lets us go into the mind of a character. We experience their thoughts and feelings as they unfold, often in a fragmented, nonlinear way.
It's like we're right there in Lily's head, witnessing her doubts or insecurities or flashes of insight.
And through this technique, Woolf highlights how subjective reality is, how we each perceive and interpret the world in our own unique way.
And she does it so masterfully.
She does.
For example, there's this one passage where Lily's looking at her painting.
Okay.
And she's overwhelmed by all these different perspectives and memories flooding her mind. It's almost like the act of painting is a way for her to navigate the complexities of time and memory to reconcile the past with the present.
It's so powerful.
It is.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
And it speaks to one of the novel's central themes, the elusive nature of time.
Right.
And its impact on our experiences.
Woolf challenges that traditional notion of time.
He does.
As this linear progression.
Right.
Instead, she presents it as fluid and fragmented, constantly shifting between past, present, and future. It's like those moments when a smell or a song suddenly transports you back to a specific time and place.
Yes.
And those memories become so vivid.
Absolutely.
They feel as real as a present moment.
Exactly.
And that's what Woolf does so brilliantly to the Lighthouse.
She captures the way memory shapes our present.
Yeah.
How the past is always intertwined with who we are in this moment.
And through this exploration of time and memory, she grapples with the themes of loss and grief.
And it's impossible to ignore the personal connection Woolf had to these themes.
Yeah.
She experienced significant loss in her own life, especially the deaths of her parents when she's pretty young.
It makes you wonder how much of her own grief and longing found their way into the novel.
That's a really insightful observation.
Yeah.
And it adds another layer to our understanding of To the Lighthouse.
Right.
It's not just a fictional story.
Right.
It's a deeply personal meditation
Yeah.
on the human condition, on how we deal with loss and memory and the passage of time.
You can tell that Woolf poured her heart and soul into this book.
Absolutely.
And it's no wonder it still resonates with readers, even a century later.
Speaking of its lasting impact, To the Lighthouse is considered one of the most important works of modernist literature.
It definitely feels like a book that pushed the boundaries of what a novel could be. Yeah, it's been praised by critics and included on all those must-read lists, like the Modern Library's 100 Best Novels, and recognized by institutions like the Swedish Academy. You know, there was even a film adaptation in 1983.
There was.
Did you know that?
Yeah, it starred Rosemary Harris as Mrs. Ramsey.
Oh, wow.
Michael Gough as Mr. Ramsey.
Okay.
And even a young Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, really?
In one of his early roles.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. It's considered a pretty faithful adaptation that captures the mood and the themes of the novel. But to really appreciate all the nuances of Woolf's language and the depth of her characters' inner lives, there's nothing like experiencing the book itself.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into To the Lighthouse, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away?
For me, it's how Woolf so masterfully intertwines the personal and the universal. On the surface, To the Lighthouse is a story about a family, their relationships and their losses. But underneath that, it's a really profound exploration of human emotions and the passage of time and the search for meaning in a world that can often feel fragmented and uncertain.
It's a novel that makes you think about those big questions about life, death, and, you know, the nature of reality.
It really does.
It stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Absolutely.
I think because it speaks to something deep within us, something about the human condition. It makes you think about your own experiences with loss and your relationships and how the past shapes who you are in the present.
And one of the most enduring images from the novel is the lighthouse itself. You know, it's this constant presence throughout the story. Yet its meaning is elusive.
Yeah, we've talked about it as this symbol of longing, of unattainable desires, even as like a representation of Mr. Ramsey's personality. But it feels like something more...
It does.
Something almost spiritual.
Like this beacon. Guiding the characters through all the darkness and uncertainty. But it's up to each person to decide what that beacon means to them.
Which leads to a final thought-provoking question for you,
yes,
dear listener.
What does the lighthouse symbolize for you? And how would you interpret Lily's artistic breakthrough in relation to that journey to the lighthouse? Is it the sign of independence? A moment of closure? A realization that some things are just out of reach?
These are questions that don't have easy answers.
No, they don't.
But that's part of what's so great about To the Lighthouse. It invites us to engage with it, to grapple with all the complexities, and to arrive at our own interpretations. And it's a book that rewards multiple readings. You might find that your interpretation changes over time.
It probably will.
Just as our perspectives on life evolve.
That's the beauty of great literature. It keeps speaking to us in new and unexpected ways. It can be a source of comfort, a challenge to our assumptions, and a mirror reflecting back all our hopes and fears and longings.
So there you have it, a deep dive into To the Lighthouse.
A novel that challenges and rewards in equal measure.
We hope you enjoyed exploring it with us. And we encourage you to keep pondering its mysteries.
Absolutely.
Long after this deep dive is over.
Happy reading.
Happy reading.